he just went like that with his paw and just went.
Oh, we're live.
Hey, we're live.
We're live.
Away. Are we live?
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
We've
Could
gone live.
someone?
I'll have a look
Hey.
on YouTube.
Hey.
Oh, we are. We're on YouTube. Cool.
What happens now, folks? What do we do now? I'm going to have to start the computer again now.
Oh,
Goodness me.
Hey, everyone. Oh,
Hello,
everyone's
everyone.
still there.
Hello, we made it.
are we sure that people can see us? Because the comments.
Can anyone see
Ah,
us?
you are live. Yes.
Yeah, somebody's. Oh, hey, Sam. Sam said we're live.
Yeah,
Where's
well,
Hi,
Where's
David.
Sam?
I didn't
Yay.
even know StreamYard was owned by Facebook.
Yeah,
So-
it's been
Well,
by one
Facebook's
of
still
those
down,
bloody
isn't it?
ants.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more of a networky thing where they're all affected.
A networky thing. Don't get too technical
networky.
now.
I'm all a bit
I think
tither now.
That's what they call it as well.
Sam's
Oh.
saying Ayrton is awesome. We've already got
Oh,
already got
Sam.
compliments for you coming in, Ayrton. Ayrton is awesome.
Make me blush. Look.
It's that beanie cap with justice written on it.
See, it's an AJP hat because you can never see the logo on the AJP t-shirts from this angle. And you can't even see my hat, actually.
No, you're gonna have
that's
to
great.
you're gonna have to sit down in your chair like that.
Yeah, my camera's
get your
too
hat on.
close to me.
Oh, go back,
Feel too
and then you have
far
to put your
away.
head down like that, Ayrton.
Right, I'm trying to get the
Oh, we can see it now.
PowerPoint done.
Well, thank you everyone for waiting, staying with us for
I know,
almost
we-
half an hour.
We were really gutted.
Oh no, these sad people got nothing else to do. That's all that means.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
We were a bit lost as well. We were like, well, what do we do now on a
Yeah.
Monday night? Oh.
It's like that thing out of Jungle Book. You know, what are you going to do? I don't know. What do you want to do?
Molly, can you not?
Another cat bite. Yeah, we've got Molly here as well.
Yes, Molly will walk across my screen back and forth, I'm afraid. Can't do anything about her, she's the boss.
It's funny when they tails.
I did tell you, this is what you need to expect.
Oh, Molly, don't blame you.
good,
Brian
that's
seems
it.
like he's sulking a little bit now.
Right. Well,
Oh.
while I
So's
try and
Molly.
get my equipment
Oh, she's
working.
amazing.
This is
so
lovely.
cheery.
She's gorgeous. So sorry, I think we're just trying to get the old PowerPoint up and ready. Are you, Roger?
Okay.
Yeah, and while I'm doing that, you can rant and rave about this if you want. So maybe tell everybody
Oh.
what that is.
No
That's a
comment.
disgusting thing.
So
Yeah,
this
disgusting.
is a pig farmer demonstration outside of the Conservative Party conference today, and so you've got pig oppressors dressed up as their victims, essentially. So which is pretty appalling, really, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah, in a costume that has a bit of a
Disgusting.
smiley face on it as well, which is quite.
Yes, because pigs offer themselves to slaughter.
Yeah,
That story.
That's what the farmers say.
we'd rather give it away than throw it away. I put on Twitter that I don't think the pigs really care about the way that their bodies are utilised after they've had their rights violated and their lives ended. You know, so.
Yeah, there was a. I think was the person we were hearing on the news this morning, Roger. Were they a farmer?
Yeah, a farmer.
The female-
I think it might have been a farmer representative. The one I heard was I can't remember her name, but she was on about how it would be the first time there would be a cull of healthy other animals in Britain, which just isn't true. I mean, we pointed out the badger cull, we pointed out the foot and mouth thing with all the contiguous killing. And Ayrton, you said there was another example, didn't you?
TB.
TB, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because obviously well, with the whole alpaca case as well, it just shows you, doesn't it, that the TB testing is really, really not reliable, and they're killing animals throughout the country all of the time. including rescued animals at sanctuaries. Just
Yeah,
because
they're always
farmers
going
don't
back
know
to
how
sanctuaries, aren't they? It happened, I
clean
think,
up
last
after
week to.
themselves.
Yeah, it happened. Is it? Oh, I can't remember which one. It was. Was it maybe Horsham Farm Sanctuary last week? Maybe had some cows taken as well by DEFRA, and for the same reason, for TB. But I know this has happened so many times, and then it turns out that they don't have TB at all. Same as Geronimo.
Yeah.
It's just sickening. So much.
Right, we might be up and running. The worst thing about this story, this pig farmer story, is that they were kind of pulling all the kind of heartstrings, saying it's a welfare disaster because we have to kill them on the farm. And so the presenter said, well, how would you kill them on the farm? And they said, well, with a captive bolt pistol. So obviously one of the ones that kill rather than stun. And I was thinking that's probably, so long as it's done properly, in inverted commas, that's probably better than shipping them off to a slaughterhouse. Anyway, it would seem to me. Although the presenter did say, are you going to be able to stop them seeing each other being killed? But again, in the gas chambers, they see each other being killed. I mean, they're all in there together, aren't they? So
Standard slaughter, they see each other being killed. No difference. Probably kinder on a farm anyway. Don't have to go through the stress
Dave
of
said,
being
did this
transported.
protest get much support? I don't know, actually. I just saw a couple. Well, we've got 2 pictures, but there doesn't seem to be that many people. There's supposed the person on the radio said 100 farmers. I don't know whether that's what they said on Radio 4, Wendy.
Yeah, something. Yeah, similar. I think. I don't know how many, but I think it was something like that.
100
Yeah, obviously, it's almost like they're tugging on the heartstrings of the public, saying, "Oh, we have to kill healthy animals," like as if people are going to be like really sympathetic for the other animals. When really, it's nothing to do with them, is it? It's nothing to do with that they care about these individuals.
What did they do anyway? I mean, they don't just take the sick ones to the slaughterhouse, do they?
No, they take the healthy. Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, that's just standard, isn't it?
Mind-boggling.
What was the aim of the protest? The protest is because there's not enough people to run the abattoirs in Britain, and so they're wanting. This is a Brexit problem. They're wanting the government to issue temporary visas. They were talking about bringing slaughter workers in from Thailand, I think it said, and so it's kind of like, you know, they're going to be going around the world saying, "Will you come back? Please come back to England and kill our animals for us." You know, and then once it's all up and running again, we'll kick you out again.
Kick them out for Christmas. That'd be nice for them.
That's a good slogan. I like that. Kick them out for Christmas. Yeah.
I think that was in one of the news
Christmas
articles, actually, that they were going to basically have visas up until December 24th. Then they have to leave.
Really?
As long as people get the Christmas turkey in.
Well, they were talking about a shortage of pigs for Christmas as well, because of the old pigs in blankets. And I honestly, just sometimes I just bang my head against the wall when I hear this crap that they spout. It really, really is mind-boggling.
Apparently, Bernard Matthews has talked about the cancellation of Christmas because there's not going to be enough turkeys to murder. So.
Because Christmas is all about peace and compassion, right?
Oh, and love.
And love and...
Oh, that would be interesting.
Oh, excellent.
Well, judging by the thumbnail, you're dressed for action already, Tracy.
Nice one.
Yeah, another fair point from Ronnie. But of course, I mean, they're going to be killed anyway. I mean, of course, what they're saying is, it's interesting because like one person said in one article that I saw before we came on air that the problem is growing, and it's literally growing because the pigs are growing. And of course, once they get past, I mean, all sanctuaries notice this. You know, there is a kind of health deterioration. Once the pigs get past the slaughter age and weight, there can be a problem then, and you might get lameness and this kind of thing developing, because they're kind of not designed to live that long. You know, they're actually designed to be killed at 6 months, and so that's all the farmers have to do: keep them alive for the first half of the first year, because that's all that's needed. You know, that's what their version of love is all about.
And when you do see rescued survivors in sanctuaries, often they are just huge, and they have so many problems with their joints, with their health, because of that, because they're not meant to be alive for that long, and so they have sometimes a really terrible time. So
yeah, what Jennifer says is part of the story. Apparently British people won't work in slaughterhouses, so they have to bring people in from abroad. The old story. Well, being a nation of animal lovers, you wouldn't want to work in a slaughterhouse now, would you? Just eat the products.
No, exactly. Let's get other people to do our dirty work for us.
Yeah, that links onto something I was going to mention later on as well. Actually, just quickly, about slaughterhouse workers. So it's the vets inside the slaughterhouses as well. So British graduates from vet schools don't want to go and work inside these slaughterhouses. So actually, a big chunk of the FSA appointed vets that are inside the slaughterhouses, they're all from abroad, like a big chunk of them, and they're new graduates from abroad, and the UK government hires them to go into British slaughterhouses. So I guess probably going to have an issue getting those appointed vets soon as well. Seems they've kicked so many people.
Yeah, I guess if you're a vet on the kill floor, you can't really avoid it. I remember Angela Walder. She used to be the scientific advisor for the BWV. She used to be an animal technician before she became an anti-vivisectionist, and she said that when she was an animal technician, the government inspectors wouldn't go into the animal house to look at the dogs because they didn't want to get hairs on their suits. But of course, if you're a vet working on the kill line, it's a much more hands-on type thing, isn't it? I suppose.
Well, it's supposed to be. We didn't quite see that in our investigation, but I'll mention that later.
We're here to talk about the Animal Justice Project and some of your ongoing projects. So we put together a bit of a slideshow. It's not particularly graphic, but I'm going to issue a content warning. So the pictures are not very graphic compared with what normally goes around in the movement. So, but I just wanted to put that up there just for people who might be a bit dodgy about it. So we've got three issues that you've picked out, Ayrton, right? And so we start off with some bunny wabbits.
Yeah. So with the rabbit side of things, so it's not under Animal Justice Project. This is kind of like it was more like a local demo that we organised outside the rabbit farm. So hopefully people are following on social media. Rabbit Farm Resistance UK, that's what they're called on Facebook, or on I think Twitter and Instagram they're called the Stop Rabbit Farms. So it's run by a really brilliant activist who's been campaigning for a few years now to get rabbit farms closed down in the UK. And then earlier this year it was kind of in national news as well because of Animal Aid did a quick investigation at one of the
Can I just interrupt for a second, Ayrton? Sorry about that. My YouTube has gone down, people. Is it anybody? Is everybody else okay? YouTube, are we still online?
I think mine's still on. I think. Can people still see us?
Yeah. Can people put in the comment whether we're still functioning? To the extent that we're functioning in the first place.
That might be pushing it a bit.
Yeah. So can anybody just drop us a line in the comments to say that you're still receiving us?
Oh yes, people are saying yes.
Looking good.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's somebody buttering us up. Looking good. Yeah. Okay. Can you still see us? Oh, that's you now.
That's you, Helen.
I'm going to say, what's this person on about? Yeah.
Ayrton,
sorry about interrupting you.
I have a quick question. The rabbits in this farm are bred for flesh, fur, or as pets?
So it's a company called TNS Rabbits, and they sit the rabbit meat farm. But actually, if you look on their website, they've got all of the fur products for sale because they can sell the fur as a byproduct, just like we can sell, leather as a byproduct in the UK. Because obviously fur farming is illegal in the UK. But this is basically like a loophole that they're using to basically do fur farming here. You'll see how much money they make from the different fur products, and on their website they make a hell of a lot more money from the furs of the rabbits than they do from the meat of the rabbits. So they sell the meat to the high-end restaurant trade, and then I think like the scraps and things probably go into cat food, because there's usually like rabbit flavoured cat food, isn't there? But yeah, most of the money is coming from the fur, but they do say they're a meat farm just so they can get through the loophole. So it's kind of, yeah, it's a very.
I presume that would work if they declared that they're breeding the rabbits for vivisection. They could do the same gig there, then, couldn't they?
They could do. I mean, I don't know any lab would take these rabbits because of how filthy the conditions are, and obviously they're probably a bit more picky than a restaurant, aren't they? But yeah, so we organised like this demo to happen outside. So this is in Nottinghamshire. This farm is. There was a demo in the summer outside the Derbyshire farm, and the demos are happening because the owner is putting in more planning permission to either extend the farms or to create new farms, or actually for the Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire one, it was to build a slaughterhouse on site so they can kill the rabbits on site rather than having to move them to one of their other farms. So the one in Derbyshire, actually, I think it may have been last Monday, actually, it got rejected. The planning application did. So they're actually having to take down all of the buildings that they've already put up that they shouldn't have done. And hopefully that farm will effectively close down. But obviously it can still operate as a rabbit farm in general. The one in Nottinghamshire where these photos are from, the planning application is still ongoing. The deadline has come for objections, but basically the council hasn't decided what they're going to do yet, and it seems to take a good few weeks. The reason we did the demo is because we wanted to go there and get some local press coverage a week before the objection deadline. So hopefully more people would object, this awful place. But then, yeah, when we were there, we happened to actually go onto the farm itself, and the workers knew we were there. The police knew we were on the site because the police were there with us. Well,
Ayrton, do you know, just got a question. We've got a question from Dave saying, do you know why it was rejected? Why the planning was rejected? On what grounds maybe they turned it down?
They did go into it. They basically put out a statement all about it, but I've not actually read through it properly because I've not really had the time, honestly.
And there's another one from Dave before about when you were talking about
it's never on ethical grounds, by the way. So none of these objections can be ethical based. It's all about traffic, noise pollution, erecting buildings, wrecking scenery and stuff like that. It's nothing to do with the animals.
Never is.
No.
That second question by Dave, or in fact the first question, when you were talking about the fur, who would buy that?
I have no idea. If you look on if you go on the website, so it's called TNS Rabbits, as in the letter T, the and sign, and S. And you can see how much they're selling things for. It's like hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So potentially they're exporting it abroad. I have honestly no idea.
It's things like scarves and handbag.
And we've got a story for you, Michael. We've only just started.
You're just on time.
Yeah, Facebook was down and StreamYard was down, and it's only just come back on. So we're only just starting, to be honest. So this is the very first slide you can see there.
Yeah, so these kind of aviary style pens, these are where the rabbits that are being fattened live. So this is called a free range farm simply because the ones that are being fattened are not locked in a cage, although this is still a cage. And they're not locked in like a factory farm kind of cage. So it is free range. And actually something that's quite interesting is that on the planning application, I can't remember if it was Derbyshire or Nottinghamshire or both, but the owner said that they had RSPCA assured standards for free-range rabbit farms. And actually, if you contact the RSPCA, there's no such thing as rabbit standards for RSPCA assured farms. So the owners made that up completely. And obviously the councils are very unlikely to actually follow that up. So yeah, it's a very untrustworthy person.
Imagine our surprise.
Well, yeah.
Really I think it's a shocking lack of consistency by the RSPCA. They've missed out on a form of animal oppression to endorse. So they'll be onto that by now.
Yeah, so actually we reported this farm as well, because like in the following photos you'll see some of the conditions, but we did an RSPCA case against the farm, and they actually referred it to the APHA, and apparently they've been out and basically said there was nothing wrong, all the animals are healthy, and just keep doing what you're doing. So that's how much we can trust our system that's supposed to protect animals, as we all know.
APHA?
Yeah, the APHA, that's who went out and investigated.
Yeah, can you tell people what that means?
Oh, it's the Animal, Plant and Health.
You just know the initials.
Authority. That's right, isn't it? Animal and Plant Health Authority, something like that.
Okay.
Basically, they're like a government body that deals with things like this, really, and they put different guidelines into place. So they're kind of like, like DEFRA or the FSA. They're all kind of bodies of the same terrible body.
Yeah, it's a system of regulating atrocities, isn't it? That's what it is.
Yeah. If you go to the next slide, you can see the conditions that they live in. So although they're surrounded by grass, and actually this field is surrounded by, lovely fields where these rabbits have a great time, they're locked in these pens, and that's their only form of shelter right there. So you'll see on top, it's not the clearest in the photo, but on top it's just basically like mounds of feces. And whilst we were there, the worker was just going around and just throwing like a muesli mix onto the floor amongst all of the muck. So they're having to eat, where they go into the toilet, and it's just obviously disgusting. And many of the white rabbits there are stained yellow. So the rabbit that I've got currently is like half like yellowy orange colour, and it's supposed to be pure white, and it's because of urine stains. And it's usually the males that are like just they urinate on each other, which is usually through like dominance or stress. And basically the rabbit should never be in that situation to have that happen.
Funny, on the website they say that the rabbits are raised in a free range way, and that they mostly eat grass, hay and herbs. Funny they don't mention the shit. Funny that.
Yes,
and also none of them have grass.
They can see the grass, and they cannot run on it. I mean, it's torture.
Yeah. They were trying to eat the grass like through the bars, and obviously failing terribly. And actually, it's interesting. The workers don't actually go into these pens at all. So they throw the food through the bars, like through the mesh. And then the water system is basically they fill a watering can up on the outside of the cage. So they don't actually have to open the door, and the doors are like, they had like one of them at least that I saw had like wire wrapped around, so it's very hard to get into for the workers to go in on a regular basis. So they're certainly not doing like daily health checks like they, like a companion rabbit would. If you go through to, how are they killed? Well, it's not very nice how they're killed, is it? But there's no current footage of how this company specifically kills them, but usually it's a blow to the head so they don't damage the fur, because obviously that's what it's all about. They don't like chop the head off because they don't want to get blood onto the white fur. And most of the rabbits on these farms are usually white, because white fur you can turn into any colour, whereas black fur you can't really do much with it. Which is, very depressing. And
just to clarify the picture we're looking at, those three boxes then, that's where the rabbits go in.
So the one on top has I think those are the ones that had like a hole on the front for them to go into, but they could not, they'll be crouching whilst they're inside there, and there's certainly no bedding, nothing like that. It's literally just an escape from the rain. or they go underneath that plank of, you know, white cardboard wood.
That'd be pretty cold in the winter too, that, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, there's not much protection from the elements at all. Yeah, if you go to the next photo, you'll see where the breeding males and females are kept on the farm. So we know this because this is what the workers told us, because they were so proud of these hutches. So these hutches, they're only about 3 foot long. I know that hutch looks a bit bigger than it actually is, and that's just because that white rabbit is a very young rabbit. You know, the fully grown rabbits that are there take up about half of the hutch. So they can probably do 1 hop, and then that's it. And this is where the breeding females stay with all their babies. This is where the breeding males are stuck on their own forever until they get thrown into, you know, a female. And yet they can still be called free range, despite actually the breeding animals being locked up all of the time. So, yeah, so a positive thing is obviously that we managed to rescue 2 of the rabbits whilst we were there at this demo. They were surrendered to us by the workers simply because we were there on the farm, and they eventually wanted us to leave. And yeah, some really great activists said to the workers that we'll leave if we get to take 2 of the sickest rabbits. So if you go to the next couple of photos, so that's the first. This is the first rescued rabbit. So she's been named Juno. So she's under the care of Urban Sanctuary, which is over in Staffordshire. I think they might be based in Warrington, just above Staffordshire, just above Stoke. But yeah, so she, as you can see, like her ears were filthy, so that was common with all of the rabbits that we could see. They all sit there and like they shake their heads, and that's a very clear sign of ear mites. And simply, they could have treated the ear mites and there'd been no issues whatsoever. But you can see from the ear photo that it's built up for such a long time, probably since she was a baby, because she had caught it probably off her mum. And just never had effective treatment that's like helped it. And it gets all scabby and dry, and it causes infection within the inner ear. Yeah, this rabbit as well. So the photo on the left, that's actually one of her back legs, and she basically doesn't have a back leg. We got told that her mum chewed it off. And rabbits usually do that because they're very stressed. So she basically has a stub like that, and actually she's since had surgery. Because she had a very bad abscess around the stub as well. So she'd have probably died very soon if it wasn't treated, because obviously an abscess is like infection, and it would have eventually got into the blood. So yes, she's had surgery. The skin actually then healed too tight over the bone. So she's then actually had to have second surgery about 4 or 5 days ago, and she's actually doing really, really well now. But obviously the costs have mounted. So if anybody's noticed, because obviously we've created a GoFundMe for the 2 rabbits that were rescued. So if you've noticed that the amounts keep on increasing, so just please keep reading the updates so you'll know why. We've currently, between the 2 rabbits, we've spent about £2,800 on 3 different surgeries and ongoing vet treatment. Well, the rescues have, because of people donating. So yeah, if anyone here has donated, like, thank you so much. Honestly, it's really, really brilliant. We've got about £700 left to fundraise. But anyway, I'm sure we'll manage it. But yeah, so Juno, she's doing really, really great. I get updates from her from the person who's looking after her every single day. So they're doing a really, really good job with her. Yeah, if you go to the next couple of photos, so this is Tommy. He's like a very big rabbit. He had severe mite issues in his ears as well, and he had a very bad head tilt. So if anyone's seen like the head tilt rabbit photos anywhere, this is Tommy. So because of the buildup of the ear mites and the infection has basically moved to the inner ear, basically as deep down as it can go. And he's had to go and he actually lived at a specialist vet's for nearly 2 weeks with exotic vets. And they performed surgery in the inner ear to basically get rid of the infection because it was too far gone that antibiotics basically wouldn't touch it. So he's actually living with me at the minute. And he's improving like every day. He's slowly starting to get his balance back. The head tilt is decreasing ever so slightly. He is probably going to have a head tilt forever, but basically the balance is the key thing. If he brings his balance back, he can have a fantastic life, which the balance is coming back. He's starting to use his back legs a lot more, like to stand up on his back legs. So that's like he's doing everything that he needs to do. So yeah, I'm very proud of him. He's doing really, really well, bless him. So yeah,
does he walk in circles, Tom, or has he kind of learned how to compensate?
So when he was on the farm, his head tilt was so bad that he was running in circles. But then since the surgery as well, he has continued to walk in circles because obviously the swelling and stuff. But yeah, as that's gone down, he's now coming to the end of his medication. So he's on like 2 different meds every day. And is starting to walk a bit more normally now. He's improving every single day, especially over the last 2 or 3 days. He's not rolling over as much, and it's not going in circles quite as much. So he's doing brilliant.
You know what this reminds me of? John Curtin was in that film called Living with the Enemy, and there was a lamb born like this with a head tilt, and called Noddy, and John tried to get Noddy taken to a sanctuary, but the farmers killed him in the end. They kind of agreed, and then they killed him behind John's back. It was terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember John was really devastated by that, wasn't he? Really affected him, I think.
Yeah, it's a tough watch. It's still on YouTube, actually. It's still on YouTube, that Living with the Enemy,
Yeah. What's interesting about this, I'm so glad. I really, really, really wanted us to do this story because of rabbits, and I feel like rabbits are not people that we talk about a lot in the movement, and I'm so delighted by this campaign and this surrender of these 2 individuals and this whole protest against TNS rabbits, which is just a horrendous company. But it also, like in the movement, we talk about kind of how in speciesism the other animals are categorized, and how we have like food animals, or we have like animals that are tested, animals that are pets, so-called pets. But I think here we see how, especially with rabbits, I think we see how other animals' purposefulness to humans is not simply categorized by species, because actually rabbits, they're used for, they're consumed, they're used for their fur, they're tested on, they're colonized into being pets. And and I think we don't really talk about them a lot in the movement, which is quite strange in a way, isn't it? Because they're so exploited, bred so much, and so many of them are killed and just have this horrendous time. So
it's
I'm
very
so
sad as well,
that
because
we're doing this.
Yeah, if anybody's like ever met rabbits, they're so intelligent as well, and they're all like, obviously they're completely individual personalities, and some have certain likes and dislikes. They're just like any other animal and any other person. Rabbits really get a raw deal, being exploited in so many ways. And we're supposed to ban fur farming in the UK, so that could have been a good step for rabbits, but somehow it's creeped back in under the guise of meat farming. So if we can really push this, if people can get behind Rabbit Farm Resistance UK and stopping these rabbit farms, I think it looks like an achievable campaign to support, that we can get this industry closed down. Because although there's a lot of rabbit farms around the UK, most of them are very, very small scale. They're kind of like backyard scale, but this one big company is basically leading the way. So the more pressure we can put on TNS, the better. So it's all did start from Rabbit Farm Resistance UK. Just to reiterate, this is not an animal justice project campaign, although we do support it. We share as much as we can, and share about people putting objections into planning permission and things like that. Oh, and something I was going to mention, actually, hopefully people saw on Thursday, Tommy's story got into the Independent, actually. So it's actually made national news. Yes. Yeah, so I tried my hardest to kind of get like the local press to pick it up, because obviously like with something like that, I was like, it wasn't at the time a massive story. that nationals would be interested in. But because of all of the different planning applications and because of the rescued rabbits, and because of, you know, how sick they are, yeah, I'm very, very pleased to, Jane Dalton, who was the journalist who wrote it all
That's
up.
quite an achievement, isn't it? Because a national wouldn't normally touch a story like that, would they? So that's interesting.
How did they frame
brilliant.
it, though? As a breach of welfare legislation, or they go to the real animal rights stuff?
It's very much on our side, actually. So obviously they have to let the opposite side comment. So
Okay.
Phil Kerry, who owns TNS Rabbits, he actually said, I think it was in that article, he said that he actually invited us onto the farm to look around, which is obviously a load of lies. He wasn't even there at the site. And I think it was within his quotes that we know about the APHA saying basically how good his farm is. Well, obviously that's from his words. But yeah, I'll be interested to know eventually what the APHA really thought. But yeah, the article itself, it's great. It's like it's not against the animal rights story at all. It's very pro ending these rabbit farms. So yeah, very pleased. It couldn't have gone better, to be honest.
And Sula Finn, there's a comment here just to reiterate about the whole kind of the different angles. Sula Finn has said BABA or BA campaigns to get pets at home to stop selling also is another angle.
Yeah, BABA campaign is a great one to follow on Facebook. I think it's BABA. And they're doing really, really great work. It's such a great one, especially if you love rabbits. It's a great one to follow, and they share different, petitions and things as well. And yeah, they're really putting the pressure onto Pets at Home to stop selling rabbits, because obviously we need that to happen just as much as closing these farms down, really. Yeah.
Oh, well done on all of that, and I can't wait to hear updates on Tommy and Juno as well.
Yeah, so if you follow, I think on Rabbit Farm Resistance UK on Facebook, they're posting updates for both of the rabbits. But yeah, Juno specifically under Urban Rabbit Sanctuary Rescue. If you want to follow their stories a bit more. And then Tommy, so I'm fostering him under Love Paws Animal Rescue, which are in like Derby and Nottingham. Yeah, good pages to follow, all of those.
Yeah, and Tracy's saying there's excellent information on Rabbit Resistance UK on how to object to planning, etc. on their page.
So there's actually there's 2 current applications that haven't been rejected yet, and I'm pretty sure one of them you can still submit objections to. So if you follow their Facebook, I think it's probably in their pinned post at the top as well. Check Facebook tomorrow when it's back.
Because when you go into sort of object to this planning as well, it's quite strange as an animal rights activist, isn't it? Because often, like you said, that when the planning is rejected, it's not for the other animals, it's for it'll be environmental things or traffic or noise pollution or anything like that. So you find yourself, because you kind of you can sometimes look at what other people have said, can't you? And you see like there's all these letters talking about the locals, it's going to be there's going to be lots of traffic, or there's going to be this, or there's going to be pollution to the area. But as an animal rights activist, you just want to say this is morally wrong, it's fucked up, like just stop it. But you kind of almost like it's not in a strategic way, you have to go down that route, don't you, of like putting all the practical things in.
You're not allowed to say anything in terms of welfare. So basically, anything about the rabbits you cannot talk about. And it's usually wise when you're objecting things like this is actually not to mention a single thing about the welfare of the animals. And if you're going to do that, do it under a second objection. Because if you're basically going really in on the welfare of the animals, they're more likely to just not take your opinion into account. Because they know you're an animal rights person.
And
presumably you can't say anything, therefore, about animal rights. So doesn't that call into question doing this in the first place?
What do you mean?
I mean, I would have thought if you're able to make animal rights and vegan-based claims within the kind of objection, then that would educate the other people that Wendy's talking about who are objecting for other reasons. But if you can't mention it, then that kind of calls into question the entire thing, doesn't it?
Oh, sorry, you cut out for a second. I don't know if that was just me. Sorry, I don't know what you said. I was following you about welfare parts not being included in the objections, and then I missed the second half.
Yeah, we were just talking about the you know, what you kind of get from it in a sense, because if you can't educate the people who make the decision about animal rights and veganism, and you can't educate the other people who are also objecting about it, it kind of calls into question the entire kit and caboodle, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it again shows the whole system that doesn't work for animals. Yeah, it's interesting. I've never actually really thought about it like that, to be honest. But I mean, it's important that we don't mention welfare so it goes through and the objection is counted. But then I think actually what we did additionally, especially in Derbyshire, so there was a massive demo there, there was probably about 100 people. And then afterwards we went and leafleted all of the local village in Ashbourne. And I actually went and posted loads of the leaflets to get the objection, to get the planning permission objected through the local council doors as well, then and into the town hall. So although you can't put it on your objection, we kind of, you know, I think they're trying to lobby the local councils and authorities as much as possible as well. So although you don't put it in your objection, you can kind of still lobby them on the side, which obviously is not from a public facing point of view. So it's not going to educate the public quite as much, but
well, are you able to, if you were able to use the objection that's going on as a hook for a story, couldn't you then, in terms of the local press, make an animal rights point? I mean, I wouldn't make a welfare point on principle, but that could, you could actually make the story that we're not allowed to say this, but this is our position.
Yeah, so it's been in the Derbyshire, like the local Derbyshire news a couple of times, that objection. And yeah, it was all about the welfare of the animals and that kind of the animal rights perspective in that article. So they have been working with the media to do that. It's just actually within the pure objection itself, you just shouldn't mention welfare just because it's not going to help as much. But yeah, in the media side, they are still coming from the animal rights perspective, which is why I'm so grateful to the Jane at the Independent for helping us do that on such a national level.
Right, should we move on?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're going to have to tell me to keep moving on, my way, because I talk and talk.
Now, this is a remarkable picture. I think this is getting close to what you would normally associate with North America and feedlots. So this is in Britain, right, Ayrton? Yeah.
Yeah, this is in Nottinghamshire, so this is Berryfields Farm. I know a few people actually in the comments who joined us at demos, because we did a couple of big demos following our investigation at this farm. So yeah, it's basically an American-style mega farm. So when people talk about mega farms in the UK, it's all about the numbers of animals that are going through that farm per year. So I think for a chicken farm to be classed as a mega farm, they have to have like, I think it's 1 million animals going through that farm every year, which is obviously a lot, but actually how many they shove into each shed, it's not that many sheds actually. So most mega farms in the UK are chicken farms, and I think there's less than a dozen, from what I last read, there's less than a dozen beef mega farms in the UK, so like cow mega farms. So this is one of the biggest in the UK. I think it might actually be the second biggest. But yes, it's in Northamptonshire, and basically it's like a feedlot style farm, which is obviously like a US style farm. And the interesting thing about this farm is that majority of the calves that come, well, majority of the calves that come onto the farm are male dairy calves. So this is the biggest fate where male dairy calves are now ending up. So a lot of activists probably think that male dairy calves are shot on farms, but actually that's decreased massively, and the biggest chunk now end up in the rearing system, which is the beef system, the rearing and fattening system. And the whole reason that we did this investigation was to show this new fate of the male dairy calf. And the tagline for it was "Dairy equals beef," so that if anybody is a vegetarian consuming any dairy products, you are fueling the beef industry just by buying those products. So I don't know, in my opinion, there's no really such thing as a vegetarian anyways there, because if you're buying dairy, you're fueling this. So how can you, well, if you're buying dairy, you're paying for the females to be killed eventually once they're exploited enough anyway. So
this is part of your animal justice project's expired campaigns. Is that right, Ayrton? So this is because you've got. So can you just explain a little bit about how this, the whole campaign, the overview of the campaign, and then maybe a little bit about the breakdown a bit?
Yeah, so we actually launched Expired campaign last summer with this investigation. So it was an investigation which spanned over 5 months. So we started off on a rearing farm, which is basically the farms where the calves go where they're on milk. So we went to Badger's Cross Farm, which was further down south. And then, we moved on to Berryfields Farm, which is the fattening side. So we covered both the rearing side and the fattening side within the investigation to show where these male dairy calves are ending up. That was the first investigation that fell under Expired. So basically it's covering all of our cow work. Currently it's covering all of the cow work. And since then we've then looked into dairy still kills, which is what I'll talk about in a minute. And then we've recently launched a mini investigation into a calf trader, which was Butalar. And basically what we want to do with Expired is expose the whole of the UK calf trade. So this is something that's never really been done before. So, the dairy farms have been exposed many times, the shooting of male dairy calves, and pretty much that's it. There's not really, and live exports, obviously that's been covered for decades, but obviously that's hopefully coming to an end soon. We wanted to explore the different fates where these male dairy calves are now going to end up, especially because live exports has decreased so much and hopefully ending. And they've obviously got to do something with these calves. And it's interesting because there's different, I'll talk about it more in a minute with dairy still kills, but because of certain policies under supermarkets and assurance schemes, that's why they're not killing the calves that are a day old anymore. So most of them now end up on these massive farms like this, and this is obviously, a huge example of these beef farms. But if you click onto the next photo, you'll see some of the conditions that were on the farm. So during the entire time there, we didn't see them get any fresh bedding. So we were on this farm for months. We didn't see them get any fresh bedding. You can see the two closest cows have very bad eye infections. Well, what looks like eye infections. We can't know for certain, but they've got clear, very gunky discharge. And most of, a big chunk of these cows were very lame. They had very overgrown hooves, which is associated with the diet that they're put on. So because they're male dairy calves and they're typically, not bred to be fattened, that's why they've typically been shot for many decades. They actually put them on a high concentrate food. So they don't eat hay like a cow would at a sanctuary, and they're not on grass. They get fed a high concentrate food, which is maize, soya. A lot of it is imported from abroad. Palm oil and things like that, to basically fatten them as fast as possible. And that actually creates other issues like the overgrown hooves, which then causes lameness. So it's all very interlinked. But as you mentioned earlier about the pigs, they need to get them to 6 months old just so they can send them to slaughter. Well, with these cows, bulls, because they're fattening them so fast, they actually kill them from 12 months old, which is actually new for dairy beef farming as well. It's a very more American thing again, because typically beef cows in the UK are going to be killed from, you know, 1.5 to 2 years old, because they're slower growing cows. Whereas these, it's basically like the factory farm version, the intensive farming version of a beef farm. So they're fattening them at a much faster rate. So they're showing these different, you know, health problems as well that you don't usually see actually on other, you know, cow farms for a longer period. But yeah, so that's like the rearing and fattening side. So we wanted to expose that, and then what we actually did under expired again, because although they're fattening calves that wouldn't typically be fattened years ago, there are still going to be some calves that still are kind of too, you know, skinny and not built enough to actually be fattened either. And obviously the supply chain is not always there. So we wanted to look into where those calves are now going. So years ago, you know, a good few years ago, the figure of 95,000 male dairy calves being killed on farms, that's the number that everybody has obviously been running with for quite a few years. But recently that's decreased to 60,000 calves. So, you know, it's been cut by about a third. And the reason for that is because of these implemented policies by companies like Arla and Muller. Red Tractor are bringing it in. I think by the end of this year, nearly all Red Tractor farms are not allowed to shoot a healthy male dairy calf on the farm. They have to basically do something else with the calf, which is why we've got all of these calves ending up on beef farms. But yeah, so those that are not suitable to be fattened and those that are not being shot on farm, we wanted to look into where they're ending up. Yeah, if you're able to go to the next photo.
And just on that point, actually, Deb says they're also now saying that killing them sooner reduces the greenhouse gases that they're emitting. So they're obviously greenwashing the whole process of like, oh, if they're killed younger, that's, you know, better for the environment.
Yeah, completely. But actually, you know, this high concentrate feed that these are being fed on, you know, it's high palm and high soya. So it's actually being imported from, you know, South America and Asia and different continents. So it's not going to be very good at all.
No, devastating the forests for the palm oil and for the soya. Yeah.
Was there supposed to be another picture before we went on to this one? Because
there should be 3 more that's called Dairy Still Kills.
Oh, hang on a second. I'll see if I can.
We've got like expired.
I don't think I got those.
Oh. It's the ones with the calves on, the very young calves.
Oh, hang on a second. I might have fecked up here, I think. Hang on a second.
It's all right. It's not the end of the world. The photos, I mean, they're very sad photos. But...
There's a miss. So really, this is just like a third way of exploiting them, really, isn't it? They can either kill them at birth, send them into live exports, or do this now with them. Yeah. So there's different like companies and people involved as well. So we've like looked into calf dealers. So that's what will lead on to Dairy Still Kills in a second. So there's calf dealers and then there's calf traders. So calf traders are like these really large companies, and actually they're promoting the integration of the dairy and beef industries. So what we're saying under expired is that the dairy industry and the beef industry are no longer individual industries. They've integrated into one. And the industries themselves, you know, they are talking about this as well, because up to 60% of the current beef herd in the UK is made of male dairy calves. So actually the two industries are completely reliant on each other, because the dairy industry needs to shove these calves somewhere and the beef industry needs to find calves from somewhere. So they're actually, the fattening side, they called it the kinder option. That was one of their quotes that we found. So we kind of ran with that.
How lovely of them.
There is no kinder option. Yeah, and the only kinder option is to not support these industries, as we all know. But yeah, so going back to calf dealers, so earlier this year, so we did another 5-month undercover investigation, which we launched in April. So this is again under expired, but we call this one Dairy Still Kills. And the reason for this was on the back of all of these new policies that are changing. Towards the end of last year, there was some national media coverage, which actually a lot of activists were praising, because, you know, certain companies were banning the killing of these calves on farms, and people thought it was fantastic news. But actually, you know, where are these calves going to go? They're still going to be exploited, and they're still going to be killed. So there's various companies. So we investigated one called Oakland's Livestock Centre in Shropshire. We do so many investigations, it's hard to remember where everybody is. Oakland's in Shropshire. And basically, these are calf dealers. So what they do, they effectively go around to markets and to dairy farms, and they buy all of the surplus calves, you know, particularly the male dairy calves. That's especially what we saw in our footage anyway. So they buy the male dairy calves up, and then they send them out either for rearing, or then what we discovered, they send them to the slaughterhouse. So that photo is from Oakland's Livestock Centre, and you'll notice that one of the calves is like lay on their back, and this is the calf that there's a worker in the trailer just like to the top left. When the photo's back. Hopefully it'll come back.
Do you want me to bring that one back in again?
Yeah, if you can go on the photo a second.
Yeah, hang on a second.
So there's a worker in the trailer, and what he had actually done, he had just thrown this calf from the back of the trailer, from the middle of the trailer, and they basically landed on their back, and they were stuck like that for about 30 seconds. Obviously, they were kind of, a bit dazed. And this particular worker, he is the son of the owner of Oakland's Livestock Centre. And we filmed him doing this multiple times, literally throwing these calves that are probably only a week old, down trailers and half knocking them out. It's very, very upsetting. Yeah, the worker's kind of like to the left in the shadows. You can see his legs. These are, they're very tiny, frail calves. So calves can leave the dairy farm from 7 days old because they have to have a passport to leave the farm. So then they'll typically go to markets, or they'll come to dealers like this. And this particular dealer travels to dairy farms and basically collects all of their calves, takes them back to their livestock centre, and then they send them out for rearing or to slaughter. If you go to the next photo, you'll see Derek Whittle. So he's the owner of Oakland's Livestock Centre, and this is him inside Hewitt Slaughterhouse, which is in Cheshire. And this is him delivering basically lots of male dairy calves, very, very young calves. The youngest ones that we filmed inside were 9 days old, which is obviously very surprising considering they can only leave the farm at 7 days old. So what they've been through in those 2 days, and now they're inside a slaughterhouse, it's unimaginable what they've actually been through. And actually this group of calves, I picked this one because this was in the middle of winter, and these calves were left in the lairage of the slaughterhouse. They kind of go, a bit further back into a pen, and they were left there on their own through the evening. And actually animals are supposed to be, greeted by an animal welfare officer. So obviously the slaughterhouse is at fault there, as well as Derek Whittle himself. And so positive news, actually, following the investigation, it was announced in the media that basically Oakland's Livestock Centre ceased all operations. So hopefully that's still the case. As far as we're aware, it is, because this is one of the biggest calf dealers in the country. So hopefully.
So when they're dealing it, and that, am I getting this right, that they're just basically coming to farms to take away, as we might think of the word excess, which is horrible, obviously, but calves that the farmers obviously can no longer shoot in the head on their farm or whatever, so they're taking them away, and their business is basically making money from just transporting them to a slaughterhouse. Is that basically what their business is?
Yeah, so they go into farms to collect these, basically the excess calves that the farmers can't do anything with. And then they go to the markets as well, and they buy all of the cheap, skinny dairy calves. Take them back to their livestock centre, maybe for a night or two, decide where they're going to go. So some of them they do send for fattening, and then the the rest of them end up in the slaughterhouse like this. So yes, it's very. I think we figured out there's about 50 slaughterhouses in the UK that kill calves. So it's a much bigger industry than people think. And actually, so the figure I mentioned earlier of 60,000 that are now that's the most recent industry figure of the number of calves shot on the farm. But what we discovered was that last year in 2020, almost 65,000 calves who were less than a month old entered UK slaughterhouses. So actually now more male dairy calves are entering slaughterhouses than are being shot on farms. So a really big part of this campaign, obviously vegetarians are one of the biggest targets, but it's actually to help to show activists what the industry has changed into. Because, we don't obviously want to go on the streets and talk about the calves that are being killed on farms, because people would have seen in the national press that that's reducing and is hopefully going to come to an end soon. Well, maybe not to an end, but it will decrease massively. Because
what percentage is that then, Ayrton, now? So if it's 65,000 are now being sent to slaughterhouses, what percentage are still being shot, on farms?
So yeah, 65,000 into the slaughterhouse and 60,000 on farms. But because of these different policies, especially under Red Tractor, if they really do bring in the policy to stop the shooting, about 90% of British farms are under assurance schemes like that. So that will wipe out a big chunk of the calves that are going to be shot on farm. So we're either going to see even more calves being fattened for beef, which is fairly unlikely because, we know it's not the most popular industry and popular, food that people eat in terms of meat or in terms of animals. So we're likely to see a lot more calves entering the slaughterhouse. And actually, about 2 weeks ago, well, maybe a week or two ago, we shared on our social media that we found out about in the first 6 months of this year, about 33,000 calves have already entered slaughterhouses. So that's, it's roughly half of what we found out last year. So it is looking like, it's going to be about an equal amount this year that are going into slaughterhouses. And obviously, because of the live exports and, Brexit and all of that, it's probably going to end up being more calves are going to slaughter because they've got nothing to do with them. It's very, very upsetting. So.
And then Deb was asking, do they keep the female calves to be impregnated, go back into the dairy side of things?
Yeah. Most dairy farmers will hold back on the female calves to replace the spent dairy calves that they send to slaughter. Something that was really, really upsetting actually during this investigation. If you click onto the next photo, it's not a very nice photo. It's not graphic, but it's not very nice. So obviously we managed to film the killing of dairy calves inside a UK slaughterhouse for the first time ever. It's never actually been done before. So yeah, we wanted to highlight that 65,000 figure and actually show people what is really happening. And something that was really, really sad was, well, you can just see how tiny and fragile these calves are compared to these workers. It's awful. But just to the right through that open door, that's where the animals get hung up. And then behind that, because we had, we were looking through that angle as well. And then at one of the times, the cows and the bulls get taken around a different way, and they kind of get hung up on a second line. And there was, dead dairy calves hanging, and then right behind was spent dairy calves hanging as well. So it was kind of the two discarded waste products of the dairy industry, literally happening in the same scene. When that footage was coming through, when we first shown it, obviously not to the public, it's just one thing that's always stuck with me. That's been horrendous.
I see the person's face is pixelated to protect the guilty. Also, the bottom right, that's the electrics shop thing, isn't it? So,
yeah. So he's using a captive bolt gun, which is stunning the calf. It's not going to kill the calf, but it stuns them. And they use that on the calves, and they use that on the larger cows and bulls, which are done elsewhere in the slaughterhouse. But yeah, the electric tongs, they're used on the pigs, the piglets, and the sheep. Yeah. So again, that's just a stunning method. So after they've been stunned, if they wait too long before they cut the throat, the animal will wake up, which we saw, which I'll talk about a bit later as well. We saw that in a second investigation.
We look forward to that. I think we look forward to that.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't bring anything cheery.
No, it's hard going, isn't it? It's really hard. And I know you were saying the other day, Ayrton, that, you know, as campaigns manager, you have to watch the footage over and over and over and over. And actually, you said that, you know, it's easy to become desensitized to it, but I think we all have to like look after ourselves a little bit. And just, I know I find it really hard. And it's just, and I know probably people in the chat do as well. So please take care of yourselves, everyone, and just with this traumatic stuff.
You know, I think there's an irony there, you know, because I think when you're actually working with the material and say producing a video, I think that's easier than just consuming it afterwards, because you've got a kind of purpose for doing it, if you like, rather than just, you know, watching it.
I keep that in the back of my mind all the time. If anything's ever upsetting, I think, do you know what, we're going to get this in the national paper, and it's hopefully going to change some people's minds and potentially save some animals in the future. I hope. Yeah, I mean, at least, you know, with this investigation, you know, even if the public aren't listening, which, you know, they certainly will be, you know, at least we can show activists kind of, you know, the more modern side of the industry and what we need to be telling the public when we're out in the street.
That's Brian's alarm. That's his diabetic
Actually,
alarm.
Wendy, is that going to create a problem for you, or what?
I do have to go and sort the little man out, wherever he is.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is we could possibly, if everybody agrees and you're into it as well, Ayrton, we could do a part 2, if you like, or we can just carry on and Wendy can disappear for a few minutes.
I'll leave it up to you. So yeah, after this, I'm basically going to be talking about our scammed investigation, which unfortunately, again, is another slaughter investigation, but it's more about the system that I'm talking about. So I can kind of hurry through that if you want to.
It seems to me then, because that's a new topic to start, as it were. We could do a part 2. Otherwise, you're going to feel a bit rushed through this. Whereas you could just go through it at the pace needed for next week, if that works for you. Would that work?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And what about Wendy and Nella? Is that a good idea?
Yeah, I agree, because I have so many questions, and I'm sure people commenting have questions too. So we should not rush.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll see if I can this end thing, should I, or should I just not bother?
So are we done with the expired thing though? Have we got more to talk about on that? So how does that stand at the moment?
If there's anything less to say on that one, yeah.
I mean, I think that was pretty much it for expired, because obviously we got to the actual the killing photos.
The expired topic is expired then.
It has, yeah. If anybody wants to know more about expired though, so obviously you can go to animaljusticeproject.com, which has everything on, but expired has its own website. So it's just expiredcampaign.org. Or if you want to learn about dairy still kills specifically, just go to dairystillkills.org and it will take you to the expired website. So that has all of our calf work, and it also has the Butylor investigation, which is the large calf trader that I mentioned, which I won't talk about now. But yes, it has three investigations under there currently. So it's the dairy equals beef, the dairy still kills, and the Butylor calf trader. So yeah, it's a really good one to look into.
Is there a reason for the name, which I've missed, expired? Is there a reason for the name?
So we've got a logo. Obviously, we've not shown it today, but the logo is so you go into a supermarket and you see the yellow logos, the yellow stickers on food when it's about to go bad. Well, like a reduced sticker. So the logo is a reduced sticker, but we know instead of reduced, we called it expired because the whole industry is becoming expired because people don't want dairy and beef anymore. Well, that's what we're telling people. But yeah, so the logo is like it's like an expired sticker that we can whack onto the industry.
I wonder if we could hypnotize people. I wonder if we could actually just like get some great hypnotist, get Darren Brown or whoever. Or no, it's not Darren Brown. Who's the hypnotist? Paul McKenna or whatever. Get him to like do a mass. Let's turn Paul McKenna vegan, and then get him to just hypnotize everyone.
Everyone.
I'm down for that.
You've given up on explaining the rational case for animal rights.
I'm just feeling desperate.
I can't blame you for it because people are very resistant to it, aren't they? But right. So okay. So it looks like we're going to do a part 2 then. So thanks for everybody for being very patient with us, and we'll get off now because Wendy's got her.
Just wants to say,
yeah,
he's just going to come and say goodbye.
A duty to perform. So so there.
Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, happy to come back and do a part 2.
Excellent. Okay. Well,
Great.
thanks for that. Sorry about the technical problems, which were beyond our control anyway. But so people, thanks very much. We've still got 20 online, so thanks very much for sticking with us, and we shall see you next week. So bye.
Molly's here to say bye.
Oh, Molly! This starts today.
She's amazing. Oh, Brian, I'm coming. I know you're so hungry now. I know. It's okay.
Okay, Mom.